Guys, Zunisha is the ancient weapon Pluton. I'm going to show you why we know that, but that's not all. I'm actually going to rebuild the entire story of the ancient weapons, how Pluton, Poseidon, and Uranus interacted with each other, their origins, and what led up to Joyboy having to apologize to Poseidon, and what Zunisha's sin or crime actually was.
I've been holding on for so long, I can't remember why. The fire's gone, I'm all burnt out, the embers have gone dry. I don't need your love to carry on. I don't need your love to make me strong. No, I've got courage to guide me through the dark. I've got courage to follow my own heart.
So guys, wherever I looked, I saw that it said Zunisha was based on Ganesha. I'm not sure if Oda said that. I thought he did, but really I don't have time to look for that now. I just want to put this out there to you guys, and it seems to be universally accepted that Zunisha did come from the name Ganesha. So in order to piece this all together and learn about this guy, we need to learn about this guy. Yes, Ganesha is a god associated with wisdom and success, but his appearance was not always like the one we know today, which looks something like this. Ganesha was born with a human head. Now, what happened is there was a goddess, and she used these herbs and these oils to clean her body. And she took those herbs and oils and used them as material to create a statue. Later, she gave life to that statue and named him Ganesha. Whoa, stop right there. Did you guys get that? I think you might have missed it. So let me teach you Japanese. Welcome to No Gym Needed Sensei's School of Nihongo Benkyo. Chill out. I'm just teaching you one word here, okay? We're going to see the word zo. Yes, zo. It's one word with two meanings. So what are these two meanings, and how does it relate to the story of Zunisha and Ganesha? Well, let me show you. One meaning is elephant, you know, zo. And the other one is statue, zo. Remember, Ganesha was a statue that became a human-like god that then became an elephant god. Well, I wonder about Zunisha. Let's keep following this train of thought and see where it takes us. So the story goes on to say that Parvati, his mother, she wanted him to guard the palace while she would bathe, and she would not let anybody in there, especially not those peeping toms. And he did his job very zealously. In fact, he was overprotective of his mom. And his dad, Parvati's husband, Shiva, he was away when Ganesha was made, and he didn't know about this whole thing. So he comes back from one of his adventures, and he's trying to go see his wife, who is bathing at the time, and Ganesha stops him. Well, this doesn't turn out good. He gets beheaded by Shiva, and then he goes and sees his wife, and she explains to him the situation, and she's shocked by what happened. And she tells Shiva, you need to resurrect him, or I'm going to get super angry, and if you're married, you know you never want to incur your wife's wrath. That is just absolutely horrible. Horrible. So he does revive him. In order to do that, he needed a new head. And so he said, take the head of the first animal that appears, and it was an elephant, and they took the elephant head. Long story short, Ganesha was very happy with his new head, and they all lived happily ever after. Now there's many stories about Ganesha, but why is this one so important? One, it's his origin, and if he does relate to Zunisha, that's probably important. And two, we have three gods in this story. We have Ganesha, which we're assuming to be Zunisha. We have his mother, a goddess, which we can assume to be Poseidon. Then there's Shiva, the male, that we're going to call Uranus. So now let's translate that into the One Piece world, this whole story. We have some sort of thing, some sort of a statue or a ship that was built out of these materials that had to do with a goddess. It gained some type of humanity, and they gave it a job to protect that goddess, okay? And in the midst of it trying to protect that goddess, it made some sort of mistake of its own accord when everyone else was not ordering it and it was using its own free will. It made a mistake, and that mistake was attacking the other god that should be the most directly related to it, which in his case it was Shiva, his dad. But he didn't know that he made a mistake. And so what does this mean for Zunisha? The ancient kingdom built Pluton, and its job as that battleship was to protect the mermaid princess, Poseidon. Think about this. If the mermaid princess really wanted to gather the sea kings and go and do something like destroy the red line or whatever, she probably wouldn't be right there with them. She would command them and they would go do it. But who's protecting her? And so that's where I get the idea that Pluton was built to specifically protect the mermaid princess while the sea kings go and accomplish their mission. Now, there's even more evidence for that because there is only a relatively small number of sea king kings. I'm just going to call them that. Like epic, the biggest of the big. We always see the same ones throughout the show in all different parts of the ocean as well. So we have reason to believe they're the ones who are going to lead all of these other sea kings and stuff during this mission, which may be to raise the Noah, but not just to raise the Noah, but also cause some sort of destruction, possibly to the Red Line or whatever. But so they can't protect Shirahoshi and do that at the same time. So where does Pluton come in? The ancient kingdom wouldn't build it just to go around terrorizing people. We know that wouldn't happen. They're peace mariners. So I think they built it specifically to protect the mermaid princess. So you're going to be asking, well, what about the whale tree, the poneglyph, and it's an elephant? How can this be Pluton, the battleship? This is what I think happened. That was Joyboy's ship. Maybe not his original ship, but it was the ship he acquired, and he took it on his adventure. The same adventure Roger went on, the same adventure Luffy went on, is going on. And guess what? Pluton, the battleship, it developed a Klabautermann. Is your mind blown yet? Everyone sleeps on that. Everyone thinks, oh yeah, the Sunny has one. You know, of course it has to. The Mary had one. What about Joyboy's ship? You really think he didn't have a Klabautermann? What happened to it? You think it just died? No, it's still there and it's in Pluton, okay? Now all of a sudden you might be like, whoa, wait, what? The Pluton's Klabautermann, what the heck? Well, guess what, guys? Momonosuke, who was he talking to? It was not Zunisha at all. In fact, it was the whale tree. Go back and look at the manga. Go back and look at every scene of every episode of the anime where Momonosuke is talking. It always shows the tree. The voice is coming from the tree. During the battle with Jack, it's always the tree that's looking down at the battle. And it always just seems like a smiling tree, and it just leaves us with nothing. We think that's what's going on, but it's like, no. Momonosuke said it's Zunisha. That's throwing everybody off, and that's exactly what Oda wanted. The whale tree is the figurehead of Pluton. And have we ever seen a ship similar to that? Yes, we have, and that is Whitebeard's. Notice his doesn't have a figurehead. It is just actually the whale is the figurehead, but it's also like the ship as well. So it's very interesting. And now I'm going to tell you what happened with the ancient weapons and the ancient kingdom. After all of Joyboy's travels, he had seen the world and he had seen the injustice and the slavery, and he was ready to fight for the cause against the 20 kings. Him and the mermaid princess came up with a plan, but she was going to need protection. So Joyboy and his crew went back to Water 7 in order to enhance his ship that already had a Klabautermann and make it into what would be Pluton. Now the stage is set. This is my theory. So around 1,000 years ago was when the problems initially really began to take shape into the current One Piece world. It was the escalation of the conflict between the humans and non-humans. That being the case, by consequence, you'd have groups who didn't think the same way, and who would fight, if the need be, for the equality of all living beings, non-human and human, thus eventually taking action against the so-called kings of the earth, the 20 kings. It's the whole theme of One Piece. Think about Thriller Bark, the stolen shadows, the people must hide from the light and fight at night to enjoy the dawn. The New World, Fishman Island, all about persecution, generational hate, embedded ideals. Dressrosa, the Don Quixote's era of enslavement of the adorable tontadas. The minks apparently fled to an isolated life on top of an elephant. Totland, it's a gathering and a protecting of all races. This conflict definitely happened. And the ancient kingdom with their ideals that all should live free and help each other and see each other as equals. Well, the kings of this world didn't like that because their title means nothing if everyone's equal. And it's really funny. If you look at the majority of the celestial dragons, all they have is a title. Take that away, and they're worse than the bottom of society. Skillless, can't fend for themselves. So they reinforce their ideals of superiority by virtue of blood, etc. Through Joyboy's adventures, he met the mermaid princess and learned of her powers, and he may have fell in love with her for all we know. They made a plan to bring the fish people to the surface. So far we have Joyboy's ship becomes Pluton, just like how the Mary became the Sunny. The Klabautermon is transferred and reborn. Now their plan is to give a devil fruit to it to mask its true appearance and to protect the mermaid queen. Now let's get into the details. When an object eats a devil fruit and is given a command, it must follow despite its own will.
Make your nose normal again, elephant. Unless you want a couple of new nostrils in the middle of your forehead. Okay, there you go. Smart move.
So here, Fungfried, in the interest of its own will and life, listens to Frankie and obeys him, while simultaneously disobeying a lot of commands from its owner. So we see when a weapon eats a devil fruit, it gains a will, the same will as a normal animal would have of its own. And it does not obey the owner if it deems a necessary situation. So that is essentially a weapon that ate a devil fruit, and it took on the devil fruit's will. Now there are other weapons that ate fruits as well, and I could use those to show you what I'm saying is true, that they take on the will of the devil fruit rather than the weapon. However, that's not going to prove my point. You guys know I'm trying to say Pluton ate this devil fruit that made it into Zunisha. And that's crazy. So are there any other ships that have been referred to as weapons? Because we see a sword eating a devil fruit, so if a sword can do it, we assume other things can. And what's referred to as a sword? None other than, you guessed it guys, the Saber of Zebek. That is his ship's name. So now guys, I'm about to really blow your mind. Like really, really hard, okay? We have a gun named Lasso that ate the Inu Inu no Mi, the dog fruit. Just a regular dog fruit, model nothing. And then now we're in Wano, where we have Yamato, who ate the Inu Inu mythical Nomi. And we have Pluton, Zo. We have Funkfried, a sword that ate the Zozo Nomi, the elephant fruit, no model. And now we're in Wano, where we have what I assume to be Pluton that ate the Zozo elephant fruit mythical model. This, my friends, is perfect foreshadowing, if that is indeed what it is. Oh, and hey, in the comments, let me know. If Blackbeard could feed his ship a devil fruit, do you think he would do it? And do you think he is going to, or already has done it now that he has gotten a better ship? That's a question we could ask. So, what command did Zunisha break? Well, actually, I don't think he broke any command. I believe the Mermaid Princess and Joyboy would let Zunisha act of its own free will, because it's Nakama. So guys, I've kind of been misleading you. I alluded to that there was a huge conflict during the Void Century, a huge war, like almost everyone says, the big war of the Void Century that lasted 100 years. But I don't personally think there was any war. During those 100 years, I believe both sides were actually just building up their strength. I think there may have been an agreement between Joyboy's allies, that is the Ancient Kingdom, and the 20 Kings, that neither side could use their weapons against the other. The 20 Kings would propose something called a reverie, where they can discuss these matters and try to come to an agreement and make everyone happy. Just like Orochi, when he's cornered, he talks a big game, and he just waits for an opportunity to stab you in the back, and that is what these guys were doing, basically. In preparation, the Noah was built so the Sea Kings could personally transport the Mermaid Princess to the surface. Then, while Zunisha, Pluton was alone, Uranos attacked, tricked, or provoked Zunisha at the command of none other than the 20 Kings, that is, the original Gorosei, or even Imu. So Uranos provoked Zunisha, and Zunisha attacked. I honestly feel like it would be like Akainu mocking Ace about Whitebeard, and Ace turned around and went to go get him. Like, no one says that. I think that Joyboy and Poseidon are so nice to Zunisha that maybe Uranos was just like, you're being used by them. They think you're stupid, blah, blah, blah. And Zunisha was just like, no. And probably the Klabautermon in the whale tree was like, don't do it. But then even the Klabautermon maybe got angry and stuff. And I don't know. But that would be so epic. But nevertheless, when Zunisha attacked Uranos and the 20 Kings made it public to the world, now, even if the Ancient Kingdom didn't accept the consequence, they would lose the moral battle, and the kings would seem like the righteous ones. So Joyboy and a certain person had to pass judgment on Zunisha, and said it must walk until it's forgiven by the one who can give it a command. Remember what Clover said, it wasn't their military strength that scared the government, it is their ideals. So I do believe this was a huge moral conflict, and they didn't even get to fight in the end. This is why Nico Olivia said what she did when Saul specifically talked about reviving the weapons.
You don't know a thing. You don't even know why you're killing us. That's a vice admiral you're speaking to. Weapons are just an excuse. Why don't you try thinking about what you're doing for once? You're just afraid of a past that you know nothing about.
This is a top secret mission. The Buster Call. It's an all-out attack in which 5 vice admirals command 10 battleships. I want you to take part.
They're just scholars, right? Why do we have to go so far? Even the ones we've captured before don't seem like they care about weapons. They just want to learn more about history. If their research is so dangerous, why don't we help them so nothing goes wrong? Least you can do is give me some proof that these folks are bad. Because to me, it seems like we're the criminals here.
Are you questioning the government? Just follow your orders.
And then, just like Roger, Joyboy gave up. Just like Roger, he turned himself in, sacrificed his life for his friends and the rest of the world, since Uranos is stronger than Poseidon and Pluton. So, in my opinion, it works like this. It takes Pluton and Poseidon in order to neutralize Uranos. So it doesn't work like rock, paper, scissors, where Poseidon beats Uranos, Uranos beats Pluton, no. Not like the triangle. It's more like 2 sides have to hit one side. And there's more evidence for that. Poseidon and Pluton being like lesser gods, and Uranos is like the father of Zeus. He is big papa god, So that would make sense, honestly, with the naming. And in fact, even the Ganesha thing, the Shiva was the big boy. He's the true, I don't know, daddy legend, whatever. And then Ganesha and his mom, they're lesser. Even when Joyboy turned himself in, Poseidon's identity wasn't known by the 20 kings, only that Joyboy's allies possessed it. Once this happened, Joyboy, together with his crew, took one last adventure. They engraved the poneglyphs, left the one on Lodestar, telling of their true purpose, then went back through the new world, putting them in places. Some were easier to find and just hidden, however others were entrusted and their will inherited. Imagine Joyboy and his crew riding Pluton as Zunisha and just walking to Skypiea. Remember, Skypiea is 10,000 meters above sea level. Zunisha is 35,000 meters. And I'm not saying they left a poneglyph there, but they would have seen it and they would have interacted with the people or whatever. They would have left it on Jaya. So as they left the poneglyphs in each location, one or two members of the crew would get off there because that's where they're from. Kalgara's ancestor at Jaya, Vivi's ancestor in Alabaster, etc. Until finally going down to Fishman Island and leaving the poneglyph with the apology. And despite them having to apologize, what tells me that this is probably a moral battle rather than a physical fight at this time was that the fishmen lost no respect for Joyboy. In fact, it seems they gained respect, which tells me no battles were fought, except the government tricking Zunisha. Why is it easier to surpass Mihawk than to become the Pirate King? Because to become the greatest swordman, you need strength and conviction. But to become the Pirate King, you need a good heart, and you need to earn the people's trust and support. Joyboy showed beyond a reason of a doubt that he was willing to die for his ideals rather than contradict them and fight. But now that that's already been done, and now with the Yonko system in place and CP9 and SSG, Marineford, and wanted posters, which didn't exist in Joyboy's time, they did in Roger's, but he was too early. Battle is unavoidable. So in a way, Joyboy as well was too early, just like Roger, because he couldn't fight. He had a different job. He had to prove the ideals of the ancient kingdom were superior and true. And by keeping his agreement even to the corrupt 20 kings and sacrificing his life for the ancient kingdom and his friends, it proved it. It proved they were right. And although the kings won the battle and were able to form the world government, which most nations joined just for power or monetary support through grants and open legal trade, others didn't join, like Kozuki and Amatsuki, the Fishmen. Alabasta was actually one of the 20 kings, but refused to relocate to the Red Line, or the land of the gods. The 20 families probably moved there at the year 1 of the Sea Circle Age, much earlier than Joyboy's time, but not the Nefertaris. Ganesha is said to be a god of new beginnings who removes all obstacles blocking success. Is this what Zunisha will do in Wano to bring the beginning of the dawn? I actually have a lot more evidence to suggest Zunisha really is Pluton. You got the crosses on the buildings. The crosses, actually, if you watch other YouTubers and stuff like that, a lot of times they say the cross actually equals the old skull and crossbones and it's been mixed together. Well, you got the crosses here. You got 4 of them on Zunisha's back on the buildings. And then look at the mast. It's the mast that has the skull and crossbones sail. Zunisha has 4 masts just like Moby Dick. Yes. Not to mention, like, all the towns and places in Zou are named after different parts of a ship. Guys, it goes on and on, but this video is already pushing 25 minutes. So I'm going to call it quits here. When I said Zunisha wasn't talking to Momonosuke, blah, 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 that wasn't quite what I meant. I actually meant, like, Zunisha was talking and the Klabautermann was actually translating it to Momonosuke, who has the voice of all things. I'm going to explain this in so much more detail in the next video, guys. So subscribe and wait for your mind to be blown, because I got 2 more videos coming out, and the final one is going to show beyond reason of a doubt where Laugh-Tale is. So get ready, guys. No gym needed. Peace out. Hey guys, one thing I forgot to mention is I said that they fed Pluton the devil fruit so that the 20 kings wouldn't know its location and it could keep walking and it'd be the Phantom Island at best. But then in my story, somehow all of a sudden Uranos knew where to go to Zunisha to provoke it, and the 20 kings commanded it to do all that. How did they know where it was if it was given the double flute for that reason? Well, I believe that it's just like Conjuro, that the way Conjuro betrayed Zunisha's location and everyone thought he was a part of the alliance, he went through all that stuff. I believe the exact same thing played out in some way, shape, or form during the Void Century. It may have even been the Kurozomi who did that. I am not sure. And in order to protect Shirahoshi, I was picturing her just riding on Zoe's back. Like, how hard would it be to get to her to kill her while she's up 35,000 meters? It wouldn't be easy, I'll tell you that much. And one more thing, guys. Oh, I watched the video and I know this is going to come up. But he basically says he committed a crime, and because of this he was sentenced to walk for all eternity and to act only on the behest of an order. But that is not what it says in Japanese. I'm not even sure. I've never heard anyone talk about this, but let me read it to you. So the top is all we care about. Zo says, "Watashi wa omukashi ni," and then Momonosuke starts talking. Zo wa omukashi ni tsumi o okashi tada aruku koto shika. So let's just translate that quick. In a very long time ago, Zo committed a sin, and he has no choice but to walk. Then it says, "Yurusarete inai no da." So I've not been forgiven. "Meirei ni shitagai," according to a command, "suzuketeru," just keep going. So it doesn't say anything about all eternity. It just basically says he hasn't been forgiven yet, and he's just obeying an order, and for that reason he's still walking. So it's a little more vague than it makes it out to be in the English translation. It says multiple times like forever and for all eternity, but it's far more vague than that in Japanese. So I think he definitely does have a destination. That's Wano. And guys, in the next video I'm gonna blow your mind because, yeah, no, just wait for it, guys. It'll be out sometime this week or next week. So once again, no gym needed. Peace and out. Later.